the New York Giants just cut an expected starter, and then they also signed just an absolute monster of a human being to play on the offensive line. I'm going to be breaking down both of those moves today. But before we get going, my name's Paul. This is Big Apple Sports. If this is your first time tuning in, please take just a quick second for me. Like and subscribe. It really helps me out. You can also join this awesome Giants community I've been building here. And man, this is going to be a fun, exciting season for the Giants. I'm telling you, the Giants are back, baby. You want to be subscribed to as much Giants content as you can because it's going to be an awesome season. So we're going to start with the surprising cut they made today, and that would be kicker Jason Sanders. They signed him to a $1.425 million deal and guaranteed $300,000 of that. And he's only 30 years old, and I think most people expected him to end up winning the job, but they also brought in Dominic Zvada and Ben Sauls, who was undrafted last year out of Pittsburgh and then signed with the Giants later on in the year. So we knew there would be competition. I think most of us expected Jason Sanders to come out on top of that, but he has been cut to make room for all the wide receivers the Giants chose to sign yesterday. My hope is that this is a sign that one of these younger guys is looking really good. And the one I specifically want to talk about today before I get into the offensive lineman the Giants signed is Dominic Zvada out of Michigan. Now, if you've caught this show before, you've probably heard me say, I'm a Michigan fan. I love Michigan football. I've watched every Michigan football game for the last 20 years probably. So I watched Dominic Zvada's entire career at Michigan, and it's an interesting one because his first year at Michigan, he made 95.5% of his field goals, 21 of 22, and he's got some impressive range. He hit, I think he set the school records for the most 50-plus yard field goals made in a season. He hit 56-yarders with plenty of leg. And it sounded like he got off to a really good start in rookie minicamp. Like his very first practice, he went 5 for 5 on field goals, made what was termed an effortless 55-yarder that had John Harbaugh super pumped about it. And he's my hope. But the reason he wasn't drafted, the reason he wasn't picked higher is because he kind of had a rough senior season at Michigan. And I think if you look back at his sophomore season when he was at Arkansas State, it was a little inconsistent. He had 2 years where he was incredible. I think his 1 year at Michigan, he was Big Ten Kicker of the Year. He was first-team All-American. And then his second season, he wasn't bad, but he just wasn't that same kicker. And that was his senior year, and it caused him to fall a little bit in the draft. But, so, of course, you got to see more consistency. You can't have a kicking position who 1 year the guy's money and the next year he's, Young Wei Koo kicking the ground. You can't have that. We, as Giants fans, are all very well aware of how important the kicking game is. But one thing I do want to say in Zvada's defense is, for one, a lot of times kicking is harder in college. They have way wider hash marks. It makes things much more difficult. They play in some interesting venues. I'll show you a clip of that here in just a second. But for two, even when he was struggling, this guy just had ice in his veins. So I wanted to show you, when I first started researching, I was like, I got to show both of his Northwestern highlights. So this was one from 2024, his season at Michigan where he was an All-American. 56 yards, he just, no problem, effortlessly. It's a little blurry, sorry, but just right through the center of the uprights. But the big one I want to talk about, the following year, and this is, people were hating on some of his misses at Michigan, but they played Northwestern again. This was at Wrigley Field. And obviously we all know Chicago's nicknamed the Windy City, but specifically Wrigley Field is positioned pretty close to Lake Michigan and just gets some insane wind there. It's a nightmare when these NFL or college teams try to play games on Wrigley Field for the kickers. You can see just in this little clip, that flag is completely sideways blowing in that wind. Wrigley Field is a baseball stadium. Depending on the way the wind's going, the game's going to be a shutout or the game's going to be 15-12 because the wind has such a big effect there. And 2 of his missed kicks his senior season happened in that Northwestern game. And one of them was a 60-yarder going into half that they just took a chance on. And I believe, if I remember that correctly, he had the leg on it. But then when push came to shove, 2 seconds in the game, if you make the kick, your team wins. If you miss the kick, your team loses. He was right down the center of the uprights. Like, this guy, every time there was a super important clutch kick at Michigan, he hit it. And so I think in the long run, with the better conditions in the NFL, with, more practice, more, obviously every rookie or, college player gets better and develops more when you get in the NFL. I think he can be a real weapon with his ability to hit from 60-plus yards. Like, I hate ever giving the Cowboys credit, but it changed their game last year when, they'd get the ball with 15 seconds left in the half, but they'd get it at the 30, and they're like, man, we get 1 first down and we have a chance at a kick. Same thing with the Jaguars. Like, that's such a weapon to have, and Zvada has that kind of leg. So, I trust Harbaugh. If he feels like he can trust Zavada's consistency, then I trust it too. And I saw it at Michigan. Like, this guy was clutch when he needed to be clutch. His senior season at Michigan was just a weird one. Like, there were all these reports of Sharon Moore. We all saw him get fired, but there were reports that, like, the locker room was just weird that year. Like, you can't hold anybody on that Michigan team accountable for having a little bit of a rocky season. It was just a rocky season in general for that team. But we'll see what happens. Maybe Ben Sauls ends up winning the job. Lots of time before the season starts. But I thought that was an interesting move. And then the other move I wanted to talk about today is the Giants made a really interesting move going for an offensive lineman out of Australia. So his name is Jared Gray. And what I really love about this move, so I think he was signed to a 3-year, $3 million deal. And he absolutely is not somebody who's going to play this year. Like, I hope I don't, mislead anybody and say, oh, this guy's going to compete for a starting job this year. Like, no, absolutely not. He is a project. But he is a 6'7", 330-pound project. And he's a part of, the International Player Pathway program that the NFL has set up. And so he does not count against the 90-man roster limit. So it's like, you know what? If he ends up working out and they're going to develop him into a good player, great. If he doesn't work out, then whatever. He doesn't cost any, he's not costing you a roster spot. It's just an interesting swing at a potential. The guy, it sounds like the guy is just a freak athlete. I was doing some research on him. This is like an old random Australian article. So they're talking about kilograms, things we know nothing about. But they mentioned that he is making waves in the United States in their developmental program, and that he reminds them a ton of Jordan Mailata, who has been a great offensive lineman for the Eagles. And they have kind of similar paths where they were just too big for the National Rugby League in Australia. Mailata, I think, is 6'8", 360 or something like that. Jared Gray is 6'7", 330. But it sounds like he is just an unbelievable athlete, too. Like, he isn't just a huge guy, but he's got, the right quickness, the right strength. So Chris Orr, he's a manager who was the one to convince Jordan Mailata to go to the NFL, said, it really does feel like deja vu to me. Seeing Jared in camp now, working with elite NFL coaches, only reinforces what we saw in him back in Australia. His size, his movement, his mentality are all rare. He's doing incredibly well, and this is just the beginning. The feedback has been very encouraging, and it sounds like he's just an interesting project. So we'll see what happens for him. Like I said, I don't expect him to play this year. He's not somebody who's going to compete for a starting job. The Giants have a ton of depth on this O-line. I feel probably better about our offensive line than I have in years right now. But he's somebody you're just taking a shot on. There's certainly not a surplus of 6'7", 330-pound good athletes in this world. And if you can, take a shot on one without giving up a roster spot, that's a huge win. So we'll see if they can develop him. Harbaugh has done, he himself has done a great job of, developing some projects in his career with the Ravens. So it'll be interesting to watch. One last thing I wanted to touch on. Shout out and prayers up to Tyrone Tracy. Sounds like they are having twins. So congratulations to Tyrone Tracy. He said he's blessed and highly favored. Thank you, God. We'll see if he feels super blessed and highly favored once he's chasing around two little twins. That sounds like crazy time, but I'm sure he'll end up loving it and he'll be a great dad. He seems like a good guy. So congrats to him. Giants fans, comment below. Give me your thoughts on any of that. Let me know if your team Ben Sauls over Dominic Zvada. Let me know in the comments what your thought of him is. I mean, he went 8 for 8 last year for the Giants. He actually has a little bit of NFL experience. So let me know if you prefer him and any thoughts you have on Jared Gray. Hit me up in the comments. And then don't forget to just like and subscribe on your way out.